Welcome everybody to another edition of Velocity Motorsports here for KS Gaming 51 Broadcasting. I am Swatch, joined in the booth as always is Shadilak. Shad, we've got Pocono, playoff race number 1. In my book, this is a very tricky track for a lot of different people, did a lot of different reasons, but it does have the name Tricky Triangle for a specific reason. All three corners are very different styles of going in and coming out of them. We've got the long straightaways coming out of each corner. But in your book, Shad, looking through the field, I know we've got at least probably 8 drivers that we're probably going to be paying attention to. There's 4 specific ones, 3 that have won most of the races this season. Who in your book is the top contender for this playoff weird elimination where we're going to have guys being eliminated tonight, and then we go into next week's race with only 8 left in the field. Then we go into 4 the following week. Each week is an elimination week. It is do or die time. Who is the top driver you're watching tonight?
Well, I mean, I think anybody in the top 12 obviously is a threat for tonight. They made the top 12 for a reason during this season. So, any of those guys has a chance. Now, granted, with that, you got a few that are sitting pretty good on points as they reset for the playoff drivers. Tyler Dohar's already got a huge advantage, being that he won 4 races, that so plus where he finished in the regular season standings at the end, he got a bonus for that. So Tyler Dohar right now, to me, Kurt, is sitting pretty good. It would take a huge disaster for him. And with the amount of cars I'm seeing right now, the field right now is kind of low. But so I think Tyler Dohar can race tonight with full confidence that he can make it through. Well, that makes Tyler Dohar dangerous, knowing that. He's already said that a place like Pocono is a track that he likes. But then I'm looking at some of the guys that are in the middle curve of the 12. A guy like John Osborne right now, top of the charts for practice. I know in the past he said he loves Pocono. So I wouldn't be surprised, if John, but I don't know, Kurt. Something still keeps pulling me to that 88 of Tyler B. He's had so many close calls to where the caution fell and it ruined his strategy, or it just he got unlucky with the pit call and that messed it up. But so to me, Kurt, I got 2 guys that I'm kind of keeping an eye on. That's the 81 of John Osborne and that 88 of Tyler B.
I mean, I can't disagree with you. There's definitely a handful of guys I think that have that extra top level that we're going to be paying attention to for sure. And there's a couple guys in here who could sneak some big finishes in and sneak up into different positions and knock other guys out to get into that final 4 after the next 2 races. But I mean, one I'm going to pay attention to for sure is Jason Blaney in that 22. He finally got and put together an entire race. We've been saying that for 5 or 6 races where, he led a lot of laps. He was the fastest car on track, was just, blazing around the different tracks that we were at, and he had simple mistakes. Either it was a pit road spin coming off, or it was pit strategy was thrown off, or he got involved in an incident. Those little things threw him for a loop every single time we went to a driven track, and we kept saying all he needs to do is put a whole race together, and he'll be there. And he got a win last week. He notched that win. I think that, takes the monkey off his back a little bit. Maybe he can figure out something. To me, that's a dangerous driver with being as fast as he is. He always shows up with speed. Dohar, he's got the strategy on lock. There's not too many in this league or around iRacing and in the leagues that I've been around that have figured out the different strategy calls and the notebooks that he has on different races that he's done in different leagues to know when to pit or to switch up his pit strategy and things like that. Murphy's been fast. Ruiz has been fast. Tyler B, like you said, has been fast. Austin Walton, John Tyler, Wesley Jeanette's back. He was the fastest in the road course that we wound up missing because I had COVID. So he's back tonight. Does that mean that that's another teammate for Jason Blaney and this whole group here on Pocono? Draft is a big deal here at Pocono, Shab.
Oh yeah, it's huge. I mean, you got 3 long straightaways. The front stretch here at Pocono, the longest straightaway in NASCAR. So, and then, that long pond straight coming out of turn 1, extremely long as well. So these guys tonight, Kurt, they're going to have to play the draft, and you want to have good exit speed. If you are not coming off these turns full throttle with a lot of momentum, you are going to get passed on these straightaways or at least get someone underneath you. And that's not where you want to be in any of these turns. You do not want to be on the outside. That's not the preferred groove at any of these, especially that tunnel turn. It is extremely tricky to go too wide through there. So I, I absolutely love this track. And talking to some of the drivers earlier, like John Osborne and Chris Murphy, for tonight, Kurt, it's looking like about 22 laps is what they're saying safely for fuel mileage. And what they were reporting to me was these cars are extremely tight. So those guys are going to be battling that, which is going to make passing even more difficult, trying to get underneath someone and get that car to rotate through these turns. So I love it. I love it being the first race of these three that we got for the championship, and just the added extra pressure of knowing that the bottom four of the 12 are going home. And it doesn't mean that if you're in eighth right now in points, you feel good. No, it's a close call towards the bottom of this 12 playoff drivers. So any one of them, any four, I guess, that have problems tonight, you're going to find yourself going home.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's 14 points separating second place and 12th place in the point standings as they got re-racked and stacked for the playoffs. You go from Jose Ruiz, who wound up finishing second in the regular season at 1,015 points. You go back to 12th, it's only 1,001. So there's not a huge gap. If Ruiz has a bad night with 20, 25 people, if we get up to that number, and Tiller has a good night, Ruiz goes to the back and he's out. And it's not even just that, it's the four at the bottom. So really, it's from second to eighth. And that's only 10 points to Tanner White. So there's a there's a big gap here between first and second. But other than that, everybody else is stacked on top of each other. And that's kind of the benefit of restacking them before a playoff run. And then having this single elimination racing style of playoffs, it's going to get nitty gritty. And I think we're going to see the level of, I don't care if you want in, I'm not letting you in. That type of attitude is going to go up each race we get closer and closer to that final. And when we get to the final four, I think those four are going to be battling it, to the very end. And there is going to be no leeway between anybody, teammates or not.
Oh, I think we're going to see the intensity of these drivers really pick up. I mean, it's a go or go home race, and it's going to be like that for the remainder two races after this. So I think guys, even teammates, aren't going to be cutting the slack like we have seen in the past. And drivers aren't going to cut each other's slack like we've seen. And, we can't count out the guys, Kurt, that are not in the top 12. They're
Oh,
still racing for
absolutely.
something. They come out here and take trophies and also make it harder for these championship guys to guarantee pretty much they're in
They can be
to the next
teammates to
round.
those
So,
guys too, so that can
oh,
be
yeah.
that can play a big part of this. If your teammate can get up there and maybe steal first or second and back those guys even further down the finishing order, it can get really touchy with guys.
Yeah. I mean, and, not even could be a guy stealing a win. You could be talking about a guy, say he's coming up to be a lap down. He's your teammate. He
Make
could
it
hold up the
make
leader
it tough.
and let you reel him back in, or make it tough for you to go by easily, and then the guy in second who's chasing you hold him up. So,
We've seen those
uh,
strategies played in the
oh
past,
yeah,
Chad,
it's
and sometimes it works out. Sometimes those guys don't take too kindly to it, and we've seen incidents come out of it. So I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to get wild. I think after lap one, once that green flag drops, these guys, the intensity locks in. They get in that cockpit, they get in the steering wheel, they grip and rip, and I don't think we're going to see any, give and take. I think it's just all take.
yeah, and then, these guys are going to be fighting this tractor. I mean, we got three turns, all different. We got turn one that's modeled after Trenton Speedway, 14 degrees of banking, which isn't a whole lot. I mean, you're talking, you go to Charlotte where there's 28 degrees of banking, or 25 or whatever, I think it is. Then you got turn two, the tricky part, the tunnel turn, 8 degrees of banking, modeled after Indy Speedway, fast, tight turn. And then, we
And who
go to
won Indy,
turn
Chad?
three.
Was that your
I
boy Murphy?
believe I believe that
So,
was my boy Murphy.
so
So I
He's got an
find him.
advantage
I
in
think
turn
he's
2.
going to be. Yeah, I think he's going to be good here. I've raced with him in other leagues at this track. I know he is pretty quick here. But yeah, then finishing off this track in a lap around here, Kurt, we got turn 3, 6 degrees of banking, and it's modeled at the Milwaukee Mile. Um, so
What's
these
weird is the
guys,
turn with the most banking is the hardest turn to me. Turn 1. I can never figure it
yeah,
out.
turn 1 is the turn that you need to be able to hit good. You got to get to the bottom, and you got to have that momentum coming off because the long pond straightaway is so important. It's just as important as the front stretch here. Um, the short shoot straight away between turns 2 and 3. Yeah, it's important to get off of the tunnel turn well, but that straightaway is not as long as the front stretch and the long pond straightaway. And turn 1's definitely probably the most technical turn. It's not real hard as far as like, oh my god, if you mess up, you're gonna hit the wall. That would be the tunnel turn. Tunnel turn
Yeah, you
is
missed that one by a few
fast.
feet. You're
Yeah,
you're
and if
going
you
to the
miss your
wall.
breaking point by, yeah, a few feet, you're either gonna have to slow way down or you're gonna put it in the wall. So,
Well, Shad, we've got a lot of action coming up. Why don't we go ahead and throw to the national anthem real quick? Come back for the gridding after qualifying finishes up, and we'll talk to that or talk about that. So we'll be right back.
yep.
All right, and like we said, we are here for Velocity Motorsports playoff race number 1. We were too busy talking during that Discord trying to figure out who we are going to pull up here to the booth. I forgot to change the volume, so I'm going to do that real quick. And Shad, we were looking at the playoff scenario here of the 12. Which driver out of the 12 did you want to pull up here to the booth?
Well, if my Windows button would work, I'd like to get John Tiller, who's sitting currently 12th in points. My Windows button is not working.
Well, let me see if I can pull my Discord up and see if I can find John and see if I can get him up here to the booth. I don't remember. There he is. Wait, is this working?
Now it's working.
Okay, mine's not working, so go ahead.
Yep, there he is. All right, I'm gonna pull him up now.
All right.
Is he on track? What number is he?
12.
All right, yeah, he's on track now. I guess I'll wait.
All right, we will wait to pull up the 12th place in point or playoff points right now. But Shad, we've been talking about Pocono. Obviously, it's a state you live in. It's my birth state, but neither of us have been to Pocono for a race. I remember Dad telling us that he had gone when he was a kid, and the infield was bushes to where you could see from the grandstands all the way across the track and see the entire track. Now, if you sit in the grandstands, you can't see the backstretch at all because those bushes are now 30-foot trees. So It's a track that I think is a nice track to go to. It's kind of like Talladega, where you're watching certain sections of the track because you can't see the entire thing. Um, but I think it is a beautiful track. It is a nice track for different racing styles. We see those guys fan out 4 or 5 wide, coming through the front stretch and things like that to the finish line. It is technical in that turn 1, turn 2. You've got to be spot on where you're entering to carry that momentum. And turn 3, you just want to carry as much as you can out of there without touching the wall, and try to get down through the front stretch. And you see those guys, in all these different straighters, we've seen it to where they fan or they move to try to break the draft, because draft is so relevant here at Pocono, where it definitely helps you gain position and try to dive into those corners. But I don't know who to pick tonight. I kind of don't really have a pick that I want to say, because I feel like anyone in the top 12 can surely come out here and get a win. And there's also guys, like we said earlier, that are not in the top 12 that could come out here and surprise and steal a win from these guys, and really put people in position where they've got to pay attention to where they're finishing, where other guys are finishing, because it's winning. It's winning, go home, or get the position you need and go home. So it's going to be close, but it looks like Tiller has gone off track. If you want to grab him real quick and bring him up to the booth here, we'll talk to him within the next 5 minutes. Maybe we'll talk to another handful of drivers in that top 12 as well, and we can go from there.
All right, pulling them up now.
Mr. John Tiller, you got a copy of this? Is Swats and Shadlack up in the booth?
Absolutely. How you doing, buddy?
We're doing good. We're checking out Pocono right now. You are 12th in the playoff standings going into playoff race number 1. Or I can say just a shotgun style of elimination. You have to finish in the top 8 in the points tonight to move on to the next week's race to be still in contention. How are you feeling about tonight's race at Pocono?
I'm feeling pretty optimistic about it. It's definitely a hard track to get around. Um, I haven't really had a lot of practice. I put a lot in yesterday and a little bit in here before this race. So we'll see how it goes. I'm gonna go out there and give it my all and try to get in that top 8 for sure.
Now, John, we got the tricky triangle that we're here, tonight. What do you think it's going to take to win tonight? Is it going to come down to some kind of strategy call, or is it going to be what we've seen most of the season, where it's hanging on to these tires?
It's most definitely going to be hanging on to these tires here. You really burn that right front off. It's definitely going to be a concern.
Well, John, we're not going to take up too much time here. We'll send you back down to your teammates. Good luck tonight. There's only a handful of points separating you from 12 to 8, so good luck tonight about getting those few points that you need to try to go into the next race.
Yeah, thank you, buddy. Thank y'all for being up here in the booth.
All
What
right.
team were you in, John? I can't remember.
John, which team were you part of so Shaq can send you back down?
It's Fueled Up Motorsports.
All right, Shad, let me know who you're going to grab up next, and we'll talk to them.
Let's bring up the guy in the first slot and see how he's feeling.
12th to 1st.
And we got him.
All right, Mr. Tyler Dohar, as a frequent flyer miles go, you've got a stack of them being in this booth, but we're going to talk to you quickly as qualifying's underway. How are you feeling about tonight's race with being the overall leader going into the playoffs tonight?
Feeling good about our position based on points, not based on the track we're at. Just struggling with speed here. We only ran like 2 laps in practice, and qualifying I feel just really tight for some reason. So just gonna try to figure it out. But as long as we salvage a decent finish out of the day, we can, be fine to just move on to the next round. And that's kind of our goal. We didn't really put much stock into this race because there's little to gain and not much to lose here. So didn't want to get too caught up in how we perform here, and just try to focus on getting ready for next week if we can, because that's where all the money's going to be on the line basically for us.
Yeah, so Tyler, with your finishing position during the regular season and the amount of wins that you had, you obviously came into this race with a stockpile of bonus points. So you're pretty much a guarantee. It would take something drastic for you to not move on to this, to the second round. So I guess we can talk kind of more about that second round. We go to a track that I feel like you're going to be very good at. How much experience do you have, in the round two race? And, how confident are you moving on after those points reset once again?
Homestead's a really strong track for us because it's a track I've just always performed at really well, no matter what type of car, no matter what league. Just we've always had speed at Homestead, so I'm really excited for that. I think we showed a lot of speed when we were there and shake and bake for the Cup Series. Just strategy didn't really fall our way. But I'm feeling really good about it. I'm feeling a lot better than we are now, but. We're going to be qualifying mid-pack here, it looks like, sitting seventh unless somebody jumps us. So, not feeling terrible about how we're going to do today. Just, I feel like our car's going to be better in traffic than by ourselves, honestly. It's really interesting. Pocono is just a weird racetrack sometimes. But, hey, at least Osborne's got some speed, and he's the one of us that, is lowest in points. So we want to just make sure that he can at least move on in the next round. And maybe he can salvage up some bonus points here, put him in a better position to move on from rounds 2 to the championship round. Because if we get to Phoenix, that's where it matters for us. Phoenix, we're a really strong car based on how we didn't turn down for what, and based on how we've done and shake and bake at that track. So as long as we get to Phoenix, I feel really strong about our chances.
If I know anything, Tyler, I know that even tracks where you might struggle to qualify or you didn't get much practice, as the race goes on, you learn how to drive that car around here. So I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the night, somehow you find yourself in that top three, if not the W.
Hey, let's hope. That's all we can hope for at this point. So that's what we gotta try and rely on.
All right, well, Tyler, we'll send you back down to your Filter Time Esports team. Tell all the guys down there good luck, and I'm sure we'll be probably talking to you at the end of the night, maybe for the top three. If not, good luck.
Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, Chad, looks like we've got gridding coming up here as qualifying is getting closed out with about 3 seconds left. We should have that gridding coming up here any second, and we'll go into talking about that as what or where everybody qualified at. And there it is. So John Osborne has gotten the pole tonight at Pocono. Right now he is in the top 10 in points. This is a big thing for him to get the pole. He's showing some big speed tonight. Wesley Jeanette going to be second. Has not been on track since his win at Charlotte Road Course earlier in the season. So would love to see what he's got for tonight in Pocono. Obviously, he's got some speed, so we'll see what happens there for him. Third place, Chris Murphy got that win earlier in the season. Jason Blaney, last race winner, sitting there in fourth. Hunter Bailey going to be fifth. Brandon Watkins sixth. Tyler Dohar, who we just spoke to, your points leader, going to be seventh. Johnny Disquali is going to be eighth. Michael Produski is going to be ninth, and Tanner White 10th. Take it from there, Shab.
Yeah, then you got the guy sitting 12th in the championship, starting 11th, John Tiller. Then you have Tyler B, surprised where he's at in this qualifying, Kurt, starting 12th. Jose Ruiz, another guy I'm surprised, starting 13th. Then Michael Carter, starting 14th. Brandon Perry, 15th. Jason Palmer, starting 16th. And then the following drivers, Kurt, did not take a time, so it's based on practice, and that's going to be Adam Thompson, 17th. Austin Walton, 18th. Ivan Deschamps, 19th. Then you got David Mayo, 20th. Nathan Line, 21st. And rounding out this 22 car field, Kurt, it's going to be Sean Walton.
All right, well, that's our 22 drivers or 23 drivers for tonight's race. Looks like everybody has gotten gridded up on the front stretch here in pit road. We'll get going, and there's going to be a one-lap warm-up lap, and then we'll go back, or we'll go green. And Shad, I think this is going to be a kind of a determining factor of what happens in turn one. We've seen it in races prior where turn one is very dangerous to start the race and on restarts, because everybody tries to get as many positions as they possibly can or try to carry as much speed as they can through that corner. And we've seen incidents either coming out of the turn two or guys dive bombing into turn one. Sorry, not turn two, out of turn one, or diving into turn one.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Pocono with this long straightaway, it's going to allow the drivers to get up to pretty decent speed, not max speed, but they're going to get pretty going, you know, going pretty fast as they enter turn one. Gonna have to try to figure it out. You don't want to be, you know, going too wide by the time you reach the tunnel. So a lot of these guys are going to probably try to get to single file by the time they reach turn two. I don't think it's going to be too tricky, Kurt, going through turn one. If these cars are tight, if they're loose, yeah, extremely tricky being on the bottom going through one. From what I'm hearing, they're tight, so I think we'll be all right there. Maybe some guys might get into the outside wall trying to push it. But for the most part, I think we'll be all right, Kurt.
Yeah, I think turn one's going to be the telltale on how this race is going to be throughout the rest of the race, because I just think guys are, you know, now's the time to turn it on. So guys are going to try to grab as many positions as they can to start this thing. We've seen races at Pocono get stretched out. Guys then struggle to make passes because everybody's so far stretched out. You really got to carry the momentum in the draft through each corner to make it up. So I'm wondering if this is going to be a very exciting turn one, or if we're going to have an easy turn one with guys going through there. These guys have been very, very patient. They've been very, very skilled throughout the season. Nobody's really done anything too outrageous or anything. So I have a feeling that's what we're going to see, but playoff times is playoff times, and guys turn it up. Pace car is going to duck on down pit road, and John Osborne is going to lead him to the start stripe for his first pole and leading the first lap of the race. Here we go. We're under green for playoff race number one, Velocity Motorsports at Pocono. Shad, we're underway. Guys are not fanning out like we're used to seeing. They are 2 by 2 as they go into turn one.
Osborne led the field off coming off of turn four, going to lead him going into turn one. Can he make it to turn two, still being the leader? That will be the question.
Wesley Jeanette sitting there on the outside, now going to the inside. He's backing up. Murphy coming up to the front line now next to his teammate in the 81, diving low on him. Is he going to try to take the lead out of turn two? Looks like he's going to complete that pass. New leader, Chris Murphy, in the 7 car. Quickly, Chad. Murphy went straight to the lead. Up 2 positions already.
Yeah, Murphy qualified third. Was fast at
Oh, we got a caution out on track. 62 is spun around at the entrance of turn 2. And that would be Adam Thompson, slow coming through turns 2 right now. I'll back this up and we can take a look at this one. It looks like it happened on the straightaway, Shad, so I'm not really sure that, you know, that would have been anything, you know, getting loose or anything like that. So we're going to see what kind of help Adam Thompson had for going around. See him there in the middle. He scoots up and tags the 32, and they bounce off of each other over and over until the 62 comes out of it, spinning around backwards.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe he thought he was clear there and didn't realize he still had a car on the outside, or he just misjudged that side draft. And it's unfortunate for him that it ended up with him being turned around.
Yeah, I'm not sure that he knew that he was cleared. It just, that's a weird one. I mean, that's at the very end of the long straightaway there, so maybe he just didn't think anybody was to his outside, but we've got mirrors in these things, and I just don't know if he used it or just really thought he was cleared. But that's going to put Chris Murphy in the lead, Shad. Once we get to the start stripe here, if you want to grab Mr. Murphy, and we'll talk to him. And then after that, we'll have a replay mode of what was seen and what was done by race control. We'll bring up Tyler T, the admin race control, after that.
So who'd you say you wanted to bring up?
The leader, Mr. Murphy.
Coming up now.
Mr. Chris Murphy, you quickly jump to the lead, and a caution comes out. How are you feeling about tonight's race at Pocono? Shad and I both said we believe that you had won Indy, and turn 2 is designed after Indy. and you're quickly going up to the front, passing your teammate John Osborne.
So that was actually Jose that won Indy. I was really quick
Oh.
there though. It is definitely tight. It's way tighter than I think I've ever had a race at Pocono at. Normally I have no problem like getting the car to rotate in the tunnel turn. That's usually where I'm the strongest, and right now I just can't figure it out. So I wanted to take advantage of the fresh tires, get out front, lead a lap or two to get a bonus point, and hope for the best.
Well, we do have a resident Larry McReynolds in here, possibly, or Shad. You know, got any advice for your buddy Chris Murphy here on getting that car to be able to turn in the corners?
Just back up your corners is the best advice I can give you if the car is that extremely tight. Getting the car to rotate early and getting that exit speed is huge at a track like this. So I think we're going to find that the guys driving in deep, they're going to, pay for it with the tires being worn off. The right front here is so key. And if you burn that thing off, the car ain't going to turn even more. So, Chris, you come out here, you were strong at Indy. You got one of these turns designed after Indy, and then the other two still kind of drive like an Indy. Not too surprised to see you starting P3. My question for you is, your teammate right behind you showed speed in practice, started on the pole. How are you doing with the long run?
That's a good question. I didn't actually get a long run in practice. The car was just so tight, and I was just trying to see how far I could push it that I don't think I got more than like 8 or 10 laps in. So I'm kind of going on off of John's metrics that he was able to get during practice, and trying to do what he did to try to replicate that. So leaning on him pretty heavy now, and it's something I don't normally do. Normally I do that myself, but I mean, that's what we got teammates for.
All right, Chris. Well, good luck on tonight's race. You've got a good start off here, and gonna be able to save a little fuel under this caution. So, good luck on the rest of the race. Hopefully, we'll be talking to the end of the night.
Sounds great. Thanks.
All right, Chad, send him back down to Filter Time Esports, and we'll get going here. I forgot that Indy, Chad, was the track that they, I believe, finished 1, 2, 3, 4 at. So, and they came to the line battling each other as they got to there. They had gone by Jason Blaney in the, I think, second or third turn, and then all four of them came out of turn 4, kind of just side by side banging off each other trying to get to the line. So it was a pretty fun race. Maybe we'll see the same thing here.
Yeah, I mean, this track's key. You got to hang on to the front pack. With a smaller field than what we've seen for the entire season, Kurt, and a track like this, you get spread out. Pocono, for some reason, always leads to spread out racing. So these guys are going to have to fight. You got to get what you can on these restarts, because if you get stuck behind a slower guy, you are going to pay for it and lose touch with the leaders.
Absolutely. Pace car is going to duck on down pit road, and we are going to go back green at Pocono. In the restart zone, Chris Murphy gets on it. John Osborne to his outside. Both of them going to go towards the start stripe and into turn 1, Chad. Murphy trying to stay down to the bottom. We don't see that fanning out that we normally see at Indy. We don't see guys trying to break anything or dive down low or anything like that. Will we see that later on in the race, though?
Well, I kind of seen Jason Blaney making an aggressive move, almost 3 wide. Was able to actually beat, I think, his teammate. They're running
24.
Well, it was a 74. They're both running that W energy drink paint scheme, but
that's Fueled Up Motorsports.
Jason Blaney made it a pretty aggressive move. It was pretty much 3 wide, able to get underneath the 81 of John Osborne and take away second place after restarting 4th. And now he's up there kind of reeling in Chris Murphy for that number 1 spot as they're pulling a gap on 3rd place. Could be out there burning off the tires. I don't know. We'll find out in a handful of laps, as these guys will definitely know. But yeah, he is all in that bumper now of Chris Murphy as they go into turn 1.
Well, like we said with Pocono, Shad, Jason Blaney led a lot of laps at that track and got passed coming out of turn 2 by all 4 teammates. They were all banging off of each other. Murphy and Blaney had exchanged paint a couple times. Ruiz was up there. Dohar was in the mix. and all 4 of them wound up getting past Jason Blaney. So for a similar style track of Indianapolis, could we see Blaney, who's obviously got speed, he qualified well, he's up here in second now, making a big move after the restart. Is this a track that Blaney's going to come out and try to put a statement down first race of the playoff and say, I'm here, I'm going for my second win in a row?
Yeah, Blaney, been strong at a lot of different style tracks all season, just wasn't able to put it together until last week. Another driver that's not securely in, Kurt, into round 2. He's got to have a good finish, and obviously a win is the best scenario, as he is really hounding that 7 car as they're about to head off into the tunnel turn. But back to the 4th place, Kurt, a guy that we haven't spoke much of through most of the season, now just took over 3rd. Is that 34, Brandon Watkins, running that Napa paint scheme. Running strong right now in the early running, and it's kind of nice seeing someone fresh up there in that top 5. And as I complete that, Kurt, Jason Blaney completes the pass coming out of turn 3 to take over that lead, get that 1 bonus point for leading a lap as they head off into turn 1, Kurt, to start lap 8.
Yeah, and I mean, Brandon, we've seen only in a handful of races, does not have a top 3 or a top 5, I believe. But, I mean, if you're going to show up in the playoffs, you're going to help teammates and things like that. I'm sure he's got some teammates out here. I don't know what team he's part of, but I would say he's probably mixed in with that Fueled Up Motorsports group is what I'm going to assume. But, yeah, Blaney taking the lead from Murphy this early. I mean, Blaney, like I said, he led a lot of laps at Indianapolis and felt kind of burned with that one because we had 2 late race cautions that kind of, restacked the field on his back bumper twice. He was able to hold off the group of esports or Filter Time esports one time, but the second restart, all 3 of them got by him. So I'd say he's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. He's got a little bit of a grit to him right now, to where he wants to put this win in the books and take that first win of the playoffs. And like you said, he's not securely in because everybody's only separated by 1 point back from second all the way to 12th with 14 points separating from second to 12th. So you got to have a big night. You got to have those points. And right now, Blaney and Murphy, 2 playoff drivers, first and second, are definitely putting on a show right now. Osborne sitting there in 4th, Brandon Watkins 3rd, Wesley Jeanette not in the playoffs, did have the win at the Charlotte Road Course, but has missed more races since then, so he is not part of the playoffs. But he could be a guy to come out here and take a win and push the field down 1 spot. Tyler B working his way up through the field, up 6 positions right now, Chef, from starting 12th up to 6th. Hunter Bailey in that 24 we just saw in 3rd, now back to 7th. Johnny Disquali is sitting there in 8th. Tanner White, another playoff driver, sitting 9th. And Jose Ruiz up 3 spots, rounding out the top 10 right now, Shad. And I'm kind of concerned. I'm looking through this field. Tyler Dohar down 6 spots since the start of this race. He is a guy who plays strategy. Is he staying back and holding off and just waiting for the tires to start being burned off by the guys in front of him, and then he'll start picking them off one at a time like he's done in so many different races?
Yeah, I was kind of wondering, the pace that these front 3 are running. They pulled out about a second and a half over 4th place Osborne. I know John's fastest in practice, qualified on the pole. I know he's got the speed. Is it the pace they're running too much too early? Is John going to be able to reel him in with the gaggle of cars that he has lined up behind him? And then you got a little bit of more of a gap falling to the 3rd pack. But yeah, like your point, Tyler Dohar, our points leader heading into the, this race, won the regular season championships. Started 7th. We talked to him before the race. He said he was struggling, and I guess that was not a card play, as he's lost 6 positions and is already back to about 5.5 seconds. So if he's playing the tire strategy, he'd better hope these tires start, falling off here quick, because like I said in the pre-race show, about 22 laps is what they're doing on fuel. That's only with the caution laps. They're probably going to be pitting in probably about 12 or 13 laps. So excuse me, if the tires are gonna wear off, they better start soon, or Tyler Dohar is gonna find himself in a hole.
Yeah, I mean, right now, the fastest car on the track is Jason Blaney out front with a 54.827. Obviously, clean air is king for him out front. But I'm kind of surprised I don't see a couple other cars back through the pack with the draft not having a faster lap than the leader. But, I mean, 54.827, I mean, I'm seeing 55s towards the back of the pack, or middle of the pack, actually. Tanner White sitting there in ninth just ran a 55. 0.150. So that's the difference between first and ninth right now, is about a half second, which isn't terrible, but we've got another player coming up through here, Shad, and that's that Brandon Watkins that you were talking about in that 34. He just made a move on the 7 and dipped underneath him. See if he can make that pass going into turn 1. Looks like the 7 may be able to pull the draft off the 22 and get back into that position. But Brandon Watkins has come to play tonight.
Yeah, he had a great run coming off of the tunnel, was able to get underneath the 7 going into turn 3, then trying to break the draft of Chris Murphy going down the front stretch, but that allowed a clear shot for Murphy to get the draft off the 22 and prevailed him back out in front of that 34. Now the 34 has got to make the move all over again, but watching him in the 7, the 34 looks better. At least right now. He's rotating through the turns very well, and he's getting a great run coming off of these slower ones, like the tunnel turn and turn 3. So yeah, he's definitely came to play. And then, back and forth, Kurt, Wesley Jeanette was able to get around John Osborne for 4th place. Now, John Osborne, though, is looking underneath Wesley right now, going off into turn 1 to take P4 back over. But I'm just curious, Kurt, when are these tires going to fall off? And, is Osborne going to be able to reel these front 3 back in? Or has these front 3 found something that they didn't have in practice?
To me, it looks like they're going full tilt, and I don't know if that's going to be the full strategy here. I mean, the fastest lap of the race is a 54.32 or 54.237. They just ran a 54.988 is what the leader ran. So they're already over a half second slower than the fastest lap of the race. And they're only 14 laps in, and we had the caution laps. So if they're going to run another 15, like you said, I mean, by the end of that 15, we could see numbers for sure in the 55s, maybe 56s. If Tyler Dohar has conserved and is able to pick off people, which it looks like he's made up 2 positions since we looked back at him earlier, sitting back in 13th. He's now 11th. If this is with a time, looking at Tyler Dohar's timing that he just ran that last lap was a 55.159, which is about 4/10 faster than the guys he passed. So he's running a little faster. He's about 2/10 faster than the 42 and the 23 who's in front of him right now as well.
Yeah, he's only about 2 100ths behind what Jason Blaney ran that same time. But, looking back to 4th and 5th of Wesley and John, and then they also have Tyler B with them, for the tires to start wearing, I would think it would start to show here this lap and on. So if they don't start reeling them in, I just feel like maybe these front 3 have figured something out. Because, with the caution laps, I feel like they could probably go to lap 24, maybe 25. So they're going to be pitting in about 8 to 9 laps.
Well, they just ran a 55.422 shed, so that's over a second slower than the fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, and
who's the fastest car on track? Tyler Dohar sitting back there in 11th. Just ran a 55.339, which is only a couple 100ths faster than the leader. But for 11th to be faster than the leader right now, I think he's been conserving. I mean, he doesn't have to really put up a big show tonight, Chad. He's got the points. He just needs to survive. He doesn't need to have a bad night. He doesn't need to finish last or anything like that. If he finishes in the top 5, top 10, he secures himself at least into the next round for sure, possibly into the final round.
Yeah, I think with the lead that he has, I think if he finishes, top 15, he's pretty much guaranteed in. So yeah, I think right now Tyler's trying to learn how to get speed in this thing. Obviously, learning the long run, which we've seen all season. Tyler is very good at. Jason Blaney has shown to be a very good guy on the long run. But I'm starting to look at the timing and scoring curve. West Jeanette is starting to make up some time on these front three, along with Tyler B and John Osborne. They're got that gap now under 3 seconds. It was over 3 seconds last lap. So they are starting to make up some ground. I just don't know if here in about the next 6 laps, when pit stops will probably start happening, if they can reel in that 2 and 3/4 second lead that these front three have over them.
Well, Shad, if you can do me a favor, go ahead and grab Mr. Tyler T down there in race control. We forgot to grab him and bring him back up once we went green because there was so much going on. But we'll grab him, talk to him about what he saw under that first caution that happened there in the first 10 laps.
Pulling them up now.
Mr. Tyler T, Mr. Race Control, Mr. Admin, trying to figure out what happened in that first caution. Saw your message come across. You said it was a result of netcode. What exactly did you see, and what was there any kind of penalty, black flag, or anything like that dealt out?
Alrighty, so well, glad to have you back for starters. But yeah, so upon review, lap 29, it did seem in the beginning that 29 was coming up too quick, but he did straighten out and everything. But whenever he did straighten out, he started going, and netcode just pulled him right in and caused caution. So with that being said, there was no penalized done there due to obviously netcode reason. But other than that, these boys are doing a pretty good job out there, making my job pretty easy tonight.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, one caution. I mean, we're 19 laps into a 70-lap race. Netcode being the issue. To me, though, it looked like I think it was the 62 floated. I know the netcode might have pulled him in, but did you go inside the cockpit? Was there any kind of movement in the wheel or anything to make that decision? Like, what did you use to determine that?
So I went, checked far chase. I also checked the cockpit and everything. Hands were not moving whatsoever. And I just pulled him right in.
Gotcha. Shad, any questions for our race control about that caution?
Not right now.
All right. Well, Tyler, thank you for coming up into the booth. Hopefully we don't have to talk to you again tonight, but if we do have another caution, we'll try to bring you up this time once we go back green. Sorry about forgetting about that. There was so much going on. We got kind of excited about all the guys making big moves.
Hey, man, totally understandable. It's playoff racing, boys. Like, yeah, it's interesting and exciting, so I totally understand.
All right. Well, Shad, go ahead and send him back down to race control so he can follow along with what's going on track. And we'll get back to the action on track. Jason Blaney out to about almost a second lead over Chris Murphy right now, with Brandon Watkins trailing Chris Murphy right on his back bumper trying to get that draft. Wesley Jeanette closing in as well with Tyler B and John Osborne. They are down to just under 2.5 seconds in some of these corner sheds, so they have made up some time. Will they be able to make up enough time before we have green flag stops coming up in the next 5 to 8 laps?
Yeah, actually 24, Hunter Bailey already coming down pit road. I think he could have gone a few more laps, but maybe he's trying to short pit it. It seems like right now we're getting spread out. It's looking pretty good for a long green flag run. Maybe trying to short pit to make up some time on some fresh tires. Another thing, I was sitting here, Kurt, trying to do those Larry McReynolds numbers real quick. If we can get 22 to 23 laps, these guys could technically make it on 3 pit stops if they stretched it just a little bit. So I think we might have to start checking out that 77 car, Tyler Dohar, and see if maybe he might be clutching.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything yet in his lap times. His lap times are very, very similar. He's a little faster than the guys in front of him. He is now up to 8, so cracked that top 10 with guys now jumping into pits. Brandon Perry also going down pit road now as well. But his lap time is a 56.053, so a little under 2 seconds slower than the fastest lap of the race. But he's about 0.4 faster than the leaders. So I think his tire strategy is starting to pay off for him. I just don't think he's going to be able to catch the leaders, but he doesn't necessarily have to. Like we said, he just needs a top 10 finish here, and he's got the points, and he's going to make it to the next round as long as he doesn't have anything disastrous happen here. And I think he's been kind of babying it, trying to wait and see what happens throughout this race. We've had the one caution due to netcode, as explained to us from Tyler T, race control. But, I mean, what's he going to run this lap? 56.37 again. So, again, 4/10 faster than the leader.
56.3. What you said?
56.03.
Oh yeah, so yeah, 4/10 faster than leader. Problem is, it's so late into the run, it's not going to be able to be taken advantage of, as he's still, about 6.5 seconds, depending on the time and scoring, back of this, leader of Jason Blaney, who, honestly, Kurt, when they came out and were going as fast as they were, pulled out to that huge lead, I didn't think they'd be able to, keep it. As I just heard over race comms, 22 coming in this time. Who else will he bring in with them? Doesn't look like the 81, but it does look like he pulls the 7 and the 34 with them. So that's going to hand over the lead. Oh, no, 7 stayed out. So that's going to hand the lead over to Chris Murphy. Tyler B and John Osborne both stayed out, along with Tyler Dohar, who's about 4.5 seconds back of Chris Murphy.
Yeah, not surprised to see the Filter Time Esport guys stay out longer than everybody else. Jose Ruiz also in that group. He stays out and moves up to 6th place in that group. But Tyler B, I think, is trying to stay with those Filter Time guys. I mean, those guys have won, 6 races out of 7 or something like that. So if you're going to follow anybody strategy-wise, follow those guys because they have figured out the strategy. Tyler Dohar on the fly has a notebook that he has sitting there next to him where he can flip through real quick to see what he's done at prior races for fuel mileage, for lap cautions that came out, strategy-wise, all over the place. He's got it in that little notebook right next to him, that little handy-dandy notebook that he's got built up through all these times of racing.
Yeah, so front 3 still stay out for another lap around here, but Tyler B, John Osborne have reeled Chris Murphy into about a second or less. So yeah, the tire's starting to make a move now. Problem is, it's really late in the run to be able to do that. So I think they can figure it out now that they can pick up the pace a little bit in the early going, and then be closer at the end of the fuel run. As I just heard now, Racecom 7 is coming this time. Tyler B also coming this time. We'll have to see if John Osborne makes another circuit around this long, tricky triangle.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to pay attention to the Filter Time guys for strategy calls because I'm wondering if Tyler Dohar comes this time. And no, he doesn't. He stays out. So he's got another lap or 2 in his book that he's got figured out. But it looks like the rest of the guys have come down pit road. They're going to give up that lead. Top 5, 4 out of the top 5 coming down pit road, which means Jason Palmer in the 22, who gave up the lead for his pit stop, is going to jump up to 2nd behind Tyler Dohar by about 15 seconds, I think. Actually, about more than that, about 12 seconds. Nope, less than that.
Yeah, no surprise that Tyler Dohar is going to be one of the last cars to pit. Now, granted, back there in the traffic that he was in, he was able to use that draft, and that definitely will help you extend your fuel mileage. But right now, Kurt, with where these guys are pitting, I think they can make it now on 2 more stops. As Tyler Dohar, Kurt, going to stay out another lap.
I'm wondering if he's got it close to a 1-stop, Shad.
20, I mean...
What would be the reasoning to stay out?
Maybe he topped off on fuel under that caution. That's something I did not check.
He did pit 25 laps ago with 4.8 seconds, so he did top off.
Yeah, so he did top off. That's why he's able to go longer than the front guys. So, yeah, with the fuel mileage that they were saying, 22, 23 to be safe.
Jason Palmer did as well.
Yeah, so I don't see them making it on 1 more stop. But from here, I think they pretty much guarantee probably, let's see, if they go 22, that would put them at 49. Then they'd only have to go 21 laps to the end, Kurt. So I think it pretty much guarantees a 2-stop race from here for a lot of the front that waited to pit. Some of those guys that came down early, like Jason Blaney, like the 34 car, they're going to have to maybe stretch it.
Dohar coming into the pits now, Shad. But Jason Palmer, Adam Thompson, both on that strategy that Dohar's on right now, where they went in and topped off during that caution, which was about, 8 to 9 laps into the race. So that gives them an extra 8 or 9 laps that they were able to run right there. I mean, if Dohar can turn this to a 2-stop race under green with the stop that he did under caution, that's going to give him a big advantage in the pit stop, Shab.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he can pretty much go from here on out. And, if he goes 22, which I think is very doable, and then goes 21 and safely to the end on fuel, to where, Jason Blaney, I think, going to have to try to stretch at one of these runs to make it. And being on board with him right now, it ain't going to be this run because he is downshifting down into 4th gear. So he is not worried about saving fuel as of right now. That could turn out to bite him in the end. But obviously we'll have to wait and find out. But Blaney right now is going to turn out to be the leader after the cycle when he comes across the line here. But he does have quite a few cars right on him. And then you go a little bit back of that, and you'll find that 7 car of Chris Murphy.
Yeah, I mean, Blaney's not the guy that's done the fuel strategies or the saving or conserving and things like that. So I think Blaney's going full tilt. He's going to try to stretch his lead as much as possible over the guys that are maybe going to try to do a 2-stop here. But I don't know. I've doubted the strategies in the past and have come up empty. Tyler Dohar has proved me wrong multiple times, more times than I can count, on if he's able to make it or not. You've figured out a lot of his different strategies during the race calls. Do you think this strategy of the guys that stayed out and are going to try to 2-stop this race compared to the 3-stop? I mean, I'm not counting that short stop to refuel. I'm actually talking about just green flag stops on a 2-stops. Is that something that you think is a winning strategy, or do you think the guys who are going to wind up, coming down here 3 times under green, is that going to be the winning strategy? Now we've got multiple situations going on here. Which one do you think is the better one?
Well, I think right now, guys like Chris Murphy, Tyler B., John Osborne, they're, to me, sitting where I would want to be. You got a few extra laps of fuel compared to that 22. Your tires are obviously going to be fresher. And you're not that far behind, 3 to 4 or 5 seconds with those 3 cars that I mentioned. And the 22 is going to have to stretch at one of these runs, I believe. And like I said, it ain't going to be this one. So that means he would leave it up to the final run to try to save fuel if my calculations are right. To me, I would rather be where the Chris Murphy, Tyler B., John Osborne, that's where I want to be. Now, Hunter Bailey, Kurt, jumped a ton of positions over that cycle, now finds himself in 4th place. Problem is, he was the first car to pit. And I don't think he can make it on 2 stops really at all. So he's for sure going to have to come down for a top off, or if he wants to take tires.
I mean, he pit 3 laps before Jason Blaney did. He pit 5 laps
20,
before.
20, I think it was.
Yeah, I mean, he pit, according to this, he pit 3 laps before Blaney did. So that's 3 less laps than Blaney. He also pit 5 laps before Murphy and Bellinger did. So there's, that distance. And then obviously he pit way before Dohar and that group did. I don't know if he can make it. I don't know if the numbers were accurate, what the drivers gave you or not. But, I mean, they're pretty close. Dohar went obviously a little further with stopping. I don't know of anybody that did not stop at the first caution that was able to go further than 24, 25 laps other than Murphy. So I don't know what the strategy call is going to be. Obviously, we see the 24 that jumped up there on the fresh rubber and was able to get out there and run fast laps before the other guys came back out on track and got going. But Murphy's already looking low underneath him to take over the 4th spot as he does clear him through turns 1 right there. So Bailey's going to fall back. But if he pit only 20, 22, or 21 laps into the race, Shad, that means he's going to be pitting here in about 8 laps again.
Yeah, so, Hunter Bailey, if he short pitted, went 20. Now, if he goes the real distance of 22, if that's what it is, That puts him at 42. Then if he goes another 22, that puts him at 64. He's 6 laps short. And I don't think you're going to make up 6 laps over 2 runs. So
He might be
Hunter
counting on a
Bailey,
caution too. I mean, we've
yeah,
seen
that's
things
the thing.
happen at the later end of the caution,
Oh
but he'll
yeah,
be up front.
there's been quite a few races. Just ask Tyler B how his strategy got messed up by a late race caution. So
Jason Blaney too.
yeah, so they're kind of. I think he's kind of counting on that. Blaney is going to be, Blaney and Brandon Watkins, Wesley Jeanette are going to be ones that I think might have to stretch it. I think it's very doable, the amount they would have to stretch. But Chris Murphy sitting back about 3 seconds. I think he's got enough fuel to go these next 2 runs and make it to the end. So plus he's got the fresher rubber than the front 3. So to me, Chris Murphy is sitting in the seat that I would want to be in right now. Tyler Dohar, yeah, he's definitely good on fuel. Problem is he's 10 seconds back of the leaders. It's a lot of time to make up over 2 runs.
Yeah, I think that group is in a good spot. I don't know. I mean, Indy came down to strategy. It came down to late race cautions that restacked the field and got everybody in there. I mean, it's similar style racing here at Pocono for Indianapolis, obviously with turn 2 designed after Indianapolis. But, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of a toss-up in the air. I'm not sure who has the winning strategy. It's going to come down to the last couple laps there before we can maybe figure that out. Or a late race caution maybe restacks him. Probably the last thing that Jason Blaney wants to see, is he's been kind of screwed over a couple times with that strategy, as he's been the leader and then gotten passed late in the race, or had a mistake on pit road, or just did not make the right strategy call and overthought it, or whatever was going on in his head, to where he stayed out and ran out of laps.
Yeah, I'm looking at the standings, Kurt. You got some drivers that are gonna need some help here coming down to the end. Guys that are sitting back in the championship. John Tiller's sitting in 12th right now, currently running in the 14th position. That's not gonna get it done. And there's a few others I see back there. Like I said, we're cutting this down to 8 after this race. So with a lot of the playoff drivers in the top 10, if I'm 12th, I'm feeling like I got to finish like 7th or 6th to maybe feel good. So right now,
looking at the standing, Chad, I mean, as I pull those up again, and we'll go through the list here. Tyler Dohar sitting first in the points. He's currently 9th. Jose Ruiz sitting second in the points. He's currently sitting 11th. Chris Murphy, third in the points, currently sitting 4th in the race. Jason Blaney, 4th in the points, currently your leader. Tyler B, 5th in the points, currently in the top 5. John Osborne, 6th in the points, currently in the top 10. Brandon Perry, 7th right now in the points. Where is he at? He is in 15th. That's not a good spot for him. Tanner White, 8th in the points. That's the cutoff spot, is that spot. Tanner White, he is in 8th in the points. He is currently sitting 10th. Hunter Bailey, 9th in the points. He's currently sitting in 7th. So right now he's okay. He jumps White and Perry. So Nate Line, 10th in the points right now, down 2 points from that 8th spot.
Yeah,
where's
18th?
Yeah, and he's in 18th. Brandon Phillips, 11th in the points. Is Brandon Phillips even in the race? I don't see a Brandon Phillips in there.
No.
So Tiller's got basically 11th right now in the points. So he's only going to be 4 points back from 8th spot. So he's got to make up some positions here to get up there. It's just all going to depend on what happens here in these last 34 laps that we've got here at Pocono, as Jason Blaney continues to lead from Pocono here. Shad, why don't we go for a side-by-side, take a break, grab a drink, do what you got to do, and we'll be right back to watch these closing 30 laps. All right, back here at Pocono for Velocity Motorsports, playoff race number 1. 29 laps to go in the race. Shab, we've had 42 completed. Blaney is your leader, being followed by teammate Wesley Jeanette, who is running his first race, second race of the season, first race since the road course that he won. Chris Murphy sitting there in third, Tyler B fourth, Brandon Watkins fifth, John Osborne sixth, Tyler Dohar seventh, Jose Ruiz eighth. So Tanner White ninth, and Johnny Disquali is going to be sitting 10th. We were talking about some of the point standings there before we went on break. There's a lot of guys that need to make up some positions based on, who's in the top 12 right now that's in the top 10 in the playoffs, or in the top 12 in the playoffs that's currently in the top 10 in the race for those guys to make it in. John Tiller, Brandon Perry, Jason Palmer, Nathan Line, Adam Thompson, Hunter Bailey, all of those guys are sitting from 12th to 18th or 12th to 17th. They need to get into this top 10 or they're not going to have a shot, even though they're only, a couple, 3-4 points back from finishing 8th, which is where Tanner White is currently sitting in the playoff race, and he's currently sitting in the 9th spot, occupying that spot. So that's going to put him in to the next round as long as he finishes in front of Tiller, Perry, Palmer, Line, Thompson, and Bailey.
Yeah, Hunter Bailey already had to come down pit road. From where he pitted, I don't see him being able to make it. He'd have to run 29 or 28 laps. So Hunter Bailey's going to have to bank on a late race caution. You never know. It's happened quite a bit this season. But, yeah, as we were talking during the commercial break there, Jason Blaney, Wesley Jeanette, they're going to have to stretch it quite a bit. I think to feel safe, you need to make it to 22 to go. 23 at best, I think, you could do, which I think is where Chris Murphy, Tyler B, John Osborne can make it to for sure. Then you go to 7th place Tyler Dohar. He can obviously probably make it to 20 or 21 to go. So, yeah, Jason Blaney right now, he's been out front for most of this race. Going to probably definitely earn the most laps led tonight. But he may be short on fuel, which would then put the race in the hand of probably Chris Murphy and Tyler B, who are reeling these front two in, Kurt, with pitting later. They're starting to make up some time now as pit cycle, which could be the final one, is coming up here soon. And right now, the 74 car, Kurt, Wesley Jeanette, just came across Racecom saying he's pitting this time. 26 to go, 25 when he's in the pit road. Don't think you can make it from there.
Yeah, and we were talking on a break that we're surprised that Blaney, if he's going to be this close, using teammate Wesley Jeanette right behind him, why he wouldn't be riding behind his teammate, allowing him to maybe conserve a little bit of fuel and let his teammate.
Kurt coming this time, just came across Racecom, is going to come this time. So your leader, guy who needs to have a pretty good night to make sure he's into the next round, coming in now, Kurt, 25 to go. I don't think he can stretch that. So this could really hurt him when we come down to it. If 10 guys can all make it, he's going to find himself sitting outside of the top 10 of the finishing end, which could hurt him when it comes to this cutoff.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of guys coming down pit road. Wesley Jeanette, Jason Blaney, Brandon Watkins, Johnny Dispaquali, Michael Carter, all coming down pit road right there. So there's 5 or 6 positions right there that Blaney is going to need to have. But with him going down pit road, that's going to move the back half of that group that we were talking about, Jason Palmer, Hunter Bailey, Nate Line, Adam Thompson, up in front of them. If they can continue on track for a couple more laps to make it to the number they need to do to finish out this race, that's going to put a lot of problems in Jason Blaney's hands if he's got to pit again, if he's going to wind up being short. We've seen this play out in the past, where he made the wrong strategy call and ran, out of fuel to where he had to go down pit road and wound up finishing, I think, like 17th in that race after leading almost the entire race. So is this another race where that may fall into it? It looks like that's how it's going to be, but a late race caution could throw anything into throw a wrench into anything that anybody is trying to plan for strategy-wise. The only person that I think is in the bag for being able to make it after this next stop for sure is going to be that 77. The next 3 or 4 is all esports guys with Dohar and Tyler B, who's taking the lead from Murphy right now. It looks like Murphy may be slowing up a little bit maybe to conserve to do another lap. But I think it's a good call by Tyler B to follow these filter time guys. Like I said earlier in the race, these guys have figured out strategy, figured out fuel, figured out tires. Why not follow those guys? They have what 4, 6, 7 wins between them. Why wouldn't you follow those guys?
Yeah, these two up front battling it out. Tyler B, made the pass on Murphy. Murphy then put a run back together and almost passed Tyler B there. But yeah, these guys coming, Kurt, 23 to go right now. When they come to the line, it'll be 22. I think even if they pit coming this time by, they should be good to make it.
Well, this is their 23rd lap on this fuel run right now.
Yeah, so they should be good to go. And right now, just as I say that, race comms 88, Tyler B, and 7 of Chris Murphy, both coming this time. So they should be good to make it from here, I believe. And that means probably the 81 of John Osborne, who pitted the same time as these two, probably coming this time as well. That will hand the lead. Ugh.
Yeah, he's coming down pit
this
road as well.
Yeah, so that's going to hand the lead over to Tyler Dohor, who should be able to run about 2 more laps if he runs the same as what he did. Personally, I wouldn't if I was him. He needs to make up some seconds. Yeah, he needs to make up some time, so I'm pitting next time by as Tyler B actually goes past his pit box just a little bit. Going to cost him probably a second right there. But yeah, if I'm Tyler Dohor, I'm coming this time by so I don't lose too much time on track to the 7 and the 88.
Jose Ruiz stayed out as well with his teammate, the 77. So that's going to put him in second. But, I mean, he's going to be in the same strategy boat. He's going to be trying to get it to the end here on this last stop for sure. But I mean, as much as I like the filter time guys, I'm sitting here sweating if I was Jason Blaney and Wesley Jeanette, Jason Palmer, Brandon Watkins, any one of those guys, because if you're short and have to pit again, we saw how far they fell in the rankings there on the score pylon. They fell all the way into the teens. That's not going to help them if the team guys then pass them and get those points that they need to get up in front of them.
Yeah, Jason Blaney, back up to 6th right now. But if him and Wesley have to pit again, they'll definitely find themselves outside the top 10, I believe, with the amount of cars that are pitting here late in the run. And then you're sitting there at the end of this race saying, did I make it in or did I not? And that's not a position you want to be in. Like Tyler Dohor right now, obviously pretty much solid in. I think with the way his strategy's been going, he should end up with easily a top 10, which
pitting now
would lock him in. Yeah, as he's coming now. Chris Murphy and Tyler B, I think, have played the strategy pretty much perfect. John Osborne as well, but for some reason, John, every time these pit cycles happens, he loses time on the get-go to the 88 and the 7.
I think he's being extra cautious on pit road. We've seen Tyler B and Murphy both get hit with pit penalties a lot through the first half of the season. So I think Osborne's just playing it a little more safer than Murphy and Tyler B, who've kind of just said, you know what, if I get hit, I get hit. If I don't, I'm making up time.
Yeah, Tyler B, even with going past his pit stop by a little bit, probably costed him a second. He still was the first car out of these 3 to come out. So I don't know if Murphy had a slight problem as well, or maybe he just took it that easy getting to his box, making sure not to speed. But, Murphy's not that far off of the 88. But Osborne, he's sitting back there by quite a bit. As Dohor, they're coming out of the pit. He's behind the 81, probably going to be about 4 seconds behind the 88 and the 7. I don't know if he can make up 4 seconds in the next 20 laps.
I mean, the 7 and the 88, they don't have to really conserve. I would probably conserve a little bit in case we have a green-white checkered. If we have a green-white checkered, they're kind of all stuck. And I don't know how many sets of tires, Shad, unless you can check that real quick. But if that's the amount that we have that they just took their last set, I don't know who comes down pit road next time. And if we have green-white checkered, anybody who's close is going to be stuck.
We have 4 sets plus the one they started on, so they should probably still have a set, maybe 2 in the pits. What have we made? 3 pit stops? So yeah, they should probably have 2 more sets. So I don't think tires are going to be an issue. But I think if there's a late race caution, you're going to see pretty much the entire field come down. Because as we've seen
If you're
towards the
sitting
late
15th
runs,
though, Shad, would you come? I mean, look at
uh,
like at Austin Walton, Adam Thompson, Nate Lyon. They're sitting 15th, 16th, 17th. They're the ones fighting for that last cutoff spot with Tanner White, who's currently 9th. If they can jump to first, second, and third and move those guys down the line a little bit and finish in the top 10, that's going to help them get to the next round. I think it's going to be a strategy call.
yeah, I mean, obviously they would jump, to the front of the field on the restart. But then I think, what we've seen with lap times running second and a half, 2 seconds slower than what they were at the beginning of the runs.
Yeah,
They're
but at that
gonna
point,
get
it comes
freight
down to
trained.
defend.
Yeah, they're gonna get freight trained, but they could probably come out with a top 10 out of it, I would think. If there was only 1 lap, on a restart or 2 laps, they might be able to hold on to a top 10 with those tires. So they'd obviously improve their position. It might get them in, it might not. So yeah, it's definitely a gamble. Obviously, if you do what the leaders are going to do, you're still going to be behind the leaders. So maybe 2 tires. Try to gain some positions that way. But yeah, Kurt, we're coming, 17 laps to go. Right now, Blaney and Jeanette. Blaney's got a 2-second lead over Jeanette, but then he's got, 3.5 seconds back to Brandon Watkins. Not sure what happened there. He was pretty close to the front 2 when they all pitted together. And then you go back to Tyler B and Murphy, who are sitting about 8 seconds back of the leaders, but they should be good to go on fuel. And then you got behind them, it's about 4 seconds to Tyler Dohar. Can Tyler Dohar make up 4 seconds, Kurt, over these next 17 laps with having about, 3 lap pressure tires?
I don't think he needs
I
to.
don't know.
I don't think he needs to push
He
the
doesn't
car.
have to. Yeah, he
I
doesn't
think
have to
if
for
he
sure.
plays
He's in.
this right and those guys in front of him have to pit because they don't have enough fuel, and the guys who are his teammates plus Tyler B finish first, second, third, and he winds up finishing 5th or 6th, that's a good finish for him for this race. If he was not, too confident going into this race, as we talked to him in the pre-race show, he was not confident at all about this track, the way it was driving. And, I mean, to come out of here with a top 6, being the points leader, guarantees him into the second race, possibly into the third race, as long as he doesn't have a disaster next week. I mean, he could baby this thing through this race and next week's race and make it to the final. And then, put it on. That's what he said in the pre-race, was making it to Phoenix is the biggest concern he has. Once he gets to Phoenix, then he can turn it on. So, I mean, going home with the top 6 with, maybe 7th to 10th car, that's a pretty good night.
Yeah, I mean, that's all he needs. Top 10, top 15, I think he was pretty much in. So yeah, he doesn't have to risk it. Obviously, he goes up there and risk it and gets into a wreck. He's going to be biting his nails to see if he makes it in. But yeah, I just switched to the 22 of Jason Blaney. Jason Blaney is clutching, trying to stretch it. I don't know if
that's
he
a
can.
lot of laps to
He had to
stretch.
run 26 laps.
Yeah, that's
So
3
that's,
extra laps with no caution.
Yeah, I don't think you can make up 3 extra laps clutching it.
If you were doing that, he should have been clutching at the second run as well.
Yeah.
And ran an extra lap or 2.
I mean, he's still got 5 seconds over Tyler B. Obviously, Tyler B. and Chris Murphy are really cutting into that lead, being that their tires are fresher. But
the timing's not showing in that, though. Blaney's running a 55.995 and clutching it. Murphy just ran a 54.89. So, oh wait, reset. Blaney just ran a 56.199, and Murphy is going to run a, once this thing recalculates that lap. Okay, so he ran a 54.9. So a little less than a second.
56.2 to 54.9.
Oh yeah, sorry, over a second.
Yeah, that's
Almost 2
1.3 seconds gain. So,
I don't think he can save 3 laps. No, I don't think so.
I don't. Like, you could probably save 3 laps over 2 runs, but 1 run, you might get a lap and a half.
That's what I'm saying. He had to have saved in the second run. to get himself closer to where he could have ran an
he
extra lap or two, put
if he
himself
could have
within
made
a
it
lap
to
or two to finish.
25, 24 to go, I think he could have made it. But to run 26 laps to end the race, I don't know. But
And that's
looks like
also,
he's gonna
Shad, he's
try it.
clutching it. Tyler B and Chris Murphy are not, and they're closing. They're down to under 4 seconds now. They're under almost 3 seconds as they go into turn 1 here as Blaney continues to clutch. Jeanette is right behind Blaney as well by a second and a half, clutching it or slowing down as well. He's running about the same lap times as Blaney, a little faster, but both of them are still a second slower than Tyler B and Chris Murphy, who's closing in. And John Osborne's also closing in on that gap as well. He's down to about 5 seconds. So if these two have to keep saving and Murphy and Tyler B get to them, they're going to have to give up on the strategy of saving. I wouldn't. I would continue to save and try to make it to the end and get out of here with a top 5, top 10 and limp the car around. I would not put the pedal to the floor and battle and continue to try to stay up front because you can't save the fuel then. So you're just kind of putting yourself in a bind where you're going to have to pit anyways.
Yeah, Jeanette, I rode with him 1 lap, no clutch, no nothing. Now riding on him when it sounded like he shut the car completely off in turn 1. I just don't know. They still got to run 12 more laps. I just don't think they're going to pull that off. But Tyler Dohar, Kurt, got around John Osborne and is now currently sitting about a second and a half behind Tyler B and Chris Murphy.
He's also the fastest car on track by a second and a half. So
yeah,
he's
so,
about 1.6 seconds faster than the leader.
Yeah, he could pull this one off. Which
he's also about 6 tenths
not,
faster than his teammate Chris Murphy in front of him.
Yeah, which would not be surprising to me at all. I figured he would probably figure it out. And then obviously the strategy call and staying out and fresher tires. That doesn't surprise me that Dohar's doing that. So, yeah, if I'm Murphy and them, yeah, they're about 1.2 in front of Tyler Dohar. So they got to get on it because 11 laps is a long way around here.
Yeah. You're looking at almost a minute a lap to go around here. So I don't know. I feel for Blaney because I feel like, again, he's going to be the fastest car on track. He's had the fastest car to beat. He's led the most laps. And I just think he's going to come up short. I don't think you can save 3 laps of fuel and be still in contention. As I say that, Blaney is about to be passed by Tyler B. Yeah. Jason Blaney being passed right now by Tyler B. Tyler B got around Wesley Jeanette, who's also saving, and Tyler B is going to take over the lead. Is this the night, Shad, that Tyler B gets his first win of the season?
Yeah, Tyler B's sitting about, I don't know if it would update, about a second and a half, 1 3/4 over Tyler Dohar. I know Tyler B's got the fuel, but does he have the tires? Dohar's
if you were Tyler B, I would start conserving now. I wouldn't shut off the car. I wouldn't clutch, but I would back up my corners a little bit to conserve a little bit of tire.
I honestly don't think they have to. They ran 23 laps. They needed to run 22 or 23 to the end. I think he's got that in the bag. Now, granted, the reason why Tyler is making up a ton of ground is there's a gaggle of cars that these leaders are fighting through, plus the leaders themselves, the front 2 or 3 that are trying to save. So that definitely has helped Dohar. Dohar currently still sitting 1.7 back of your leader, Tyler B. 9 to go, and Dohar's got to pass a lot of cars to get to Tyler B. There's about 5 cars in between them, so
9 laps is a lot of laps, though.
Oh, it is.
Especially he's got 5 lap fresher tires too.
Yeah, but one of those cars is his teammate whose tires are only like 3 laps older, and obviously Chris Murphy's trying for a good finish. But how much does Tyler Dohar push this, knowing you're pretty much locked into the second round?
Yeah, Murphy's going to look low below Wesley Jeanette right now for third place. Dohar trying to follow him through. Dohar and Murphy can link up and draft. We've seen the drafting between those two and their other teammates at Daytona and Talladega. that's what Dohar needs, is the link on that back bumper to get back to Tyler B with Chris Murphy and try to double team Murphy.
Oh,
Whoa,
contact.
Dohar. Woo.
Yeah,
That was a shake of the rear
between
end.
the 77 and 74. And 7 car of Murphy drove it in too deep, hurt his exit coming out of turn 1. That's going to allow Dohar to get underneath them as they go to the tunnel turn.
Yeah, and the more side-by-side racing they see, or that Tyler B sees in his rearview mirror, the better. But Tyler Dohar quickly making good work of the 7 and getting right by him, now sitting in third. Only about,
A second.
yeah, I was going to say about a second behind Bellinger, but he's only 1/10 behind Blaney. He's closing in on second right now. I mean, to come out of here and say pre-race, this is not a track I'm good at, I'm struggling, I'm not having the night I thought I would have in practice and qualifying, doesn't qualify, well, qualifies back in 7th, not, where we usually see Dohar, but to come out of here and finish second or possibly grab this win, that's a miracle in my book, but not in Tyler Dohar's. He sits there and he calculates and recalculates and recalculates, sounding like a GPS machine when you're making all the wrong turns, and he just figures that out every single time when it comes to strategy, as he looks low underneath the 22 right now for second place, Chad, and he's going to be about a second behind Tyler B with about 6 laps to go as they go through turns 3 and 4 right now. Bellinger going to be coming to the start stripe to have 6 to go. Can Tyler Dohar get to the lead, or will we see Tyler B get his first win of the season? It would be a big one, as it is playoff race number 1, and he is currently sitting, I think, 4th in the point shed.
Yeah, Tyler B, just needed a solid finish as well to secure himself into round number 2. But we know how much he wants a win. He's been so close to getting a win this season, and now he finds himself on the bad end of strategy to where he's got old tires compared to the man chasing him, and Tyler Dohar is making up a ton of ground.
Wow.
He just cut it down by like 4/10 through turn 1.
Yeah, Dohar turned it on.
Now down to 3/10 as they head off into turn 3.
Either
Bellinger
Dohar
is
turned it
gonna-
on or Bellinger had a bad turn, because that
Yeah,
was a huge gap that Dohar just made up.
Tyler B is going to have to put on one heck of a fight for the next 5 laps to be able to hang on to this win, as the 74 car of Wesley Jeanette Kurt comes down pit road. That
Dohar,
does not bode well for the 22 of Jason
No.
Blaney, who's on the same strategy. If he was to pit right now, Kurt, he would probably fall back.
well, Jeanette's
So
down to 7th
probably-
right now.
Yeah, he would probably fall back to about 11th, looking at the time and scoring. So it probably would still be good enough for him to make it. It's going
It'll
to
be
be
close.
tight, but
Well, Tyler B's got a handful. He's got Dohar all over the back bumper. Tyler B has got to put on the blocking clinic of his life right now if he wants this first win. But you don't want to get too aggressive with it. You know you're locked into the playoffs with this win, or with this finish. Whether you're first, second, or third, you're locked into the next round. It is a single elimination for this round. Do you throw the block? Do you get aggressive? Do you go and get it? You know that first win is something he wants. He doesn't want Dohar to get his 5th win of the season. He doesn't want to see Filter Time Esports continue to win this week in and week out. Does he put on the block? Would you put on the block, Shab?
I mean, I know how badly you want that first win, but you know what? A championship is even better than a win. So I think at this point, to make sure I'm into the second round, he's got to know that Dohar behind him's got fresher tires. And, a second place would secure it moving on to the second round. So I don't know. I think I wouldn't put on too much of a block. Obviously, I'm going to try to drive the wheels off of this thing and hang on to it. But if Tyler gets one heck of a run or dives it in underneath me, I think I'm just going to have to kind of let it go.
Well, if you're Dohar, on the reverse, do you get aggressive, knowing that you're the points leader, and if you have a bad night tonight, that could really screw everything up? Do you get aggressive? As Dohar goes side by side with him through the front stretch.
Yeah, Tyler B trying to side draft him. He's hanging right there with them as they go off in turn 1.
Dohar's going to clear him, going around the outside of him. Takes over the lead, the 77 of Tyler Dohar, your new leader with 3 to go, Shad. Tyler B going to be that close, 3 laps again. This is like the second or third time he's been within grasp within the final 5 laps and is going to be passed through turn 1 with 3 to go. Tyler Dohar going to stretch it out, knowing he's got the fuel. Murphy, Osborne closing in on Tyler B as well.
Don't
Oh, Dohar clipped the wall.
Tyler B got one heck of a run on Dohar going through the tunnel turn, got underneath Dohar and has now got back in front of him as they go through turn 3. He's trying to block that low lane. Dohar goes high. Now Dohar looking maybe low as they go into turn 1. 2 laps to go, Kurt. Tyler B lead them off into turn 1.
So this is what I was talking about before, Shad. As Dohar sits here, he just clipped the wall and had a bad turn. Do you be aggressive? Do you go for this win, knowing you already have 4 wins? You're already locked in the playoffs. You're automatically going to the next round if you finish in the top 10. You're probably going to the 3rd round if you finish in the top 10. Do you be aggressive right here if you're Tyler Dohar, Shad? Or do you just let Bellinger take this win?
I guess it just depends on how safe he feels like he's into that round, second round. Right now, up to 14th is a lap down. If you wreck out right now, you're going to fall back behind all those guys, probably back to about 18th, 19th. Is that going to get you into the round 2? I don't know. But right now, Kurt, 1 to go. Tyler B still leading Tyler Dohar. He's trying to put a block as they're going down the front stretch. I would be getting that draft of that lap car. He can hold a pick right now on Dohar, who's on the high side. Dohar's going to be stuck behind that lap down car. They're going to put dirty air to that 77's nose.
So as they're going to come off of turn 1, Bellinger going to still be in the lead with half a track to go. 2 turns left at Pocono. Final lap. White flag was in the air. Oh, and Dohar and Bellinger make a clip. Dohar clips the wall. That's going to put Bellinger in the lead for sure. Can Dohar get back to him and maybe repay him for that one? It looked like Bellinger maybe gave him a kind of a pinch move up towards the wall to not allow him to go through. Bellinger down the second straightaway towards turn 3 and 4, or turns 3. Tyler B going to come off of turn 3, looking at the start stripe, looking at the checker flag, going to get his first win of the season, and it's a big one. Playoff race number 1, Chad. 88 gets his win and moves on to the second round.
Yeah, Tyler Dohar obviously frustrated with that move. I mean, I cannot blame the 88 of Tyler B last lap trying to put on the block. He was zigging and zagging as they were going down that second straightaway back there, the North Straight. And, he blocked him on the inside. Dohar tried to go to the outside. Tyler B tried to block that one. Unfortunately, Dohar had a little bit of a nose there, and they made contact, and it just shot Dohar's car to the wall. I cannot blame Bellinger or Tyler B. Belanger. I would have put the same move on. I know Dohar would have done the same exact move. So I can't blame the 88, especially trying to get that first win. So, but yeah, Kurt, P3 going to be Chris Murphy. P4 is going to be Osborne. 5's Jose. Jason Blaney finishes 6. Kurt, that should be good enough to put him into the next round.
Oh, shit, we're going to go to the burnout as Tyler B comes down to the finish line. We'll be right back to talk to the top 3. All right, we are back here for the post-race interviews of the top 3 at Pocono. Playoff race number 1 for Velocity Motorsports, and we got a first-time winner in the booth shed. Tyler B coming home with the win tonight. Big win, needed the win. To get that monkey off your back. You get it in playoff race number 1 at Pocono. Tyler, how did this strategy play come out? There was a lot of different strategies going on. You were kind of mixed in with a small group. Blaney and his group had a different strategy. There was another guy that was off by a couple laps short. And then obviously Dohar had the fuel a little longer than you guys. So how did this strategy play out, and how did it come down to the end where you get this first win, and how does it feel?
Oh man, it feels amazing. Strategy played out perfectly. I was able to go all out the last 2 runs there. I actually thought I was gonna have about 2 laps extra at the end. I ended up only having 1. But man, these bonus points are gonna make a big difference for me to have a chance making the final 4. I mean, it's a stacked field. We got 5, 6 guys, maybe even more, that can win any week. So I felt really good. I didn't have a lot of short run speed tonight. I had a lot of long run speed. I really took a lot of time in practice to make sure I was taking care of that right front, and I just felt like the long run I was really good, and that's why I stayed out as long as I could on the first set of tires and green flag pit stops, and ended up panning out perfect. Couldn't ask for more. Super, super happy about finally getting this one, man.
Well, Tyler B, you've been close multiple times throughout the regular season. Some late race cautions unfortunately costed you the strategy that you were on in those races. Tonight you played the strategy well with you and Murphy and Osborne all in the same strategy. I figured you 3 were good to go to make it to the end, and I figured the leaders were gonna have to do something miracle or hope for a caution to make it. And it turned out that way, to where it was looking like it was going to come down between you and Murphy. Then Dohar pitting later than y'all had the fresher tires. When you seen him working his way through the leaders that you passed, and then those lap down cars, and he was about a second to a second 3/10 behind you. What were you feeling at that point? Like, oh man, I might have blown another strategy with not being able to stay out late.
Well, regardless of whether he won or not, it wasn't a blown strategy on my part. I did everything I could, and Dohar pitted on the 1 caution that came out on lap 1, and he was able to use that to his advantage the rest of the race. But what really sealed the deal for me was before I even had the lead, Murphy and I came out, and he had tracked me back down on that last run, and he got to my inside, and a lap car was there, and I was able to pin him down and get the lap car, the 62, between him and I. And then from that point, I made real quick work of the next 3 to get the lead, and I had about a 1.2 seconds back to Murphy with multiple cars between us, and I had smooth sailing from there. If I didn't make work of those guys at that point, Dohar would have gotten to me quicker. And even after once he cleared Murphy, I'm like, all right, I'm listening to the broadcast. I know he's got 4 or 5 lap fresher tires or whatever it was. I'm like, he's gonna get to me. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Was able to hold him off enough. When he got around me, I was deflated. I'm like, well, there goes another one. But I had the best tunnel turn I had the whole race. I got that left front down on that yellow line and hooked it and was able to floor it. It doesn't appear he hit the wall. I was just able to get through it and get inside, and then from there, it was just the blocking game, man. Coming down that back stretch there, he started to go low, tried to go low, and I retaliated when he went high. And I actually straightened the car out right when we touched, but just the reaction, it put him into the wall a little bit. I feel bad about that, but that's racing. I'm doing everything I can on the last lap to try to get my first win, because I knew how important it was for me if I have a chance at making it through next week, because the top 4 all have wins, so I would have been outside looking in by 3 points, and against those guys, every point matters. So just couldn't be happier. Super excited to move on to next week now, man.
Well, I mean, Tyler, going into next week's race with this win under your belt finally throughout this entire season, we've only seen a handful of guys, mostly out of that Filter Time Esports group, getting the wins other than Wesley Jeanette's win at the road course. You become our first and only other winner that's in the playoffs outside that Filter Time Esports. So how much of a boost? Oh, yeah, Blaney, sorry, last week. So second first or second winner outside that filter time group. So how does that feel going into 2 races left to go to the championship or to be the champion?
Man, it feels amazing. I mean, these two teams that have been battling out all season, I've been right in the mix with them on multiple occasions. But anytime you can race somebody like Doha or any member from either of those two teams and take home a win, you got to feel good about it. Those guys are so elite. They just don't seem to make mistakes. They know the strategies like it's nothing. And I didn't have high anticipations coming into the season. It's my first time ever in these cars. And, every race is a learning lesson. I've had more speed than I thought. So I'm happy about that. But, after the close calls I've had to getting wins throughout the season, Pocono is not one of my greatest tracks, but I do like it. I felt if I could get through this one, Homestead would treat me pretty well. And then it's all or nothing at Phoenix. So anytime you can beat one of these guys, it feels good.
Shad, any other questions for our first place finisher, Tyler B, in that 88 UPS paint scheme?
Well, Tyler B, obviously you're moving on to next week. Next week being Homestead, another track that chews up the tires. You can run the high side if you dare to, but the bottom seems to be the way to go to save the tires and be that long run car. How you feeling about going to next week and starting there at Homestead?
I feel really good about Homestead. The last time I was there, granted it wasn't the next gen cars, I picked up a league win in the ARCA series. So I know it tends to be a very, very loose, sketchy track. I like that. I like having a handful in my hands. I feel like that gives me a little more of an advantage against some of these guys. I'm sure there's others that feel the same way, but definitely feel good going into Homestead.
Well, Tyler, congratulations on the first win of the season. Congratulations on moving on to the next round. Any shout-outs for you as we have not talked to you as a winner?
Well, obviously, shout out to you guys. Glad to have you back in the booth. Hope your health is doing well. And just the whole league, man. Super excited to be a part of it and run it and see how well it's going. We got some big news coming up in the future that I can't say right now, but it's going to be pretty substantial. Shout out to Tyler Tyone up there doing race control and cheering me on and rooting on for me in the chat. Michael Pardusky, same thing, cheering me on there at the end. And just everybody who showed up tonight. It was a great race.
All right. Well, Tyler B., we appreciate you coming up into the booth for the post race here. Congratulations again on that first win of the season. Congratulations on moving on to the second round of this one race elimination style playoffs that you guys have put together. It's a very odd one for me, but I think it puts a lot of pressure on you guys to show up week in and week out and show out on track with the finishes and the position gains that you guys can get with the skill you guys have on track. There's a lot of guys in this field that are stacked between, like 15 different guys could be in the top 10 at any point. So you're going to have to finish with good standing every single race before we get crown a champion here. So congratulations again, and we'll see where you end up next week at Homestead.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
All right, we're going to bring up our second place finisher, and that is going to be the 77 filter time car of Tyler Dohar, who comes out of turn 2 with a little bit of a block from the Tyler B that we just talked to and meets the wall a little bit. Tyler, your strategy, dude, I don't know what kind of notebook you have sitting next to you. I don't know what kind of strategy or brain that you got to be able to cycle through all the stats and things like that to come up with the strategy calls that you do. But that book has got to be worth some money at this point with as many victories or top threes that you have clinched with pulling off strategy. Was this a race that you thought you could get into? I know we talked pre-race and you were not confident during practice about how this race was turning out with the car being tight and things like that. Did you find something, or was it just the strategy calls and being smarter than others on track?
I think our strategy, we did ourselves no favors pitting when we did. I thought it was going to be tighter on field for everybody than it was, and really sacrificing that much track position early on really hurt us because I had to come from so far back to try to get back up to those guys. After the first green flag run, right before the first pit stop, I was about 5 or 6 seconds behind Tyler B and Murphy, and then right on Osborne's bumper. And then once we got going into the second pit stop, I was about 4 seconds behind. So I cut down 2 seconds and had passed Osborne. So I was feeling pretty good, and I just nailed that pit road entry on that final stop. I could not have hit that any more perfect, I don't think. Because looking at my out lap, I had beat those guys by about 2 or 3 seconds, or on my end lap actually, and was able to just negotiate lap traffic a little bit better. Murph got held up, and because he had 2 lap older tires, I was kind of able to just negotiate around it a little bit easier. I wish I would have stayed out on that first caution, because sacrificing about 7 or 8 seconds there just wasn't worth it for the extra 2 laps of fueling tires. And I feel like I undersold how good my long run pace was, based on how that first run ran. But I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is. We kind of gambled and took a gamble. I feel like we really had a shot at it. I mean, I wanted Tyler to win, but not at my expense. You get 1 shot to block on the straightaway, you don't really get 2. And as he's coming back up, his tail end is chasing his nose and whacks me in the wall and broke the right front, because the right front was pointed at 10 o'clock to have to go straight. So glad I didn't get a meatball, because it just would have cost us positions that we didn't need to. But sucks. But hey, I mean, if that's how we're going to race that way. So I'm ready for it.
Well, Tyler, we talked before the race. Like Kurt said, you weren't confident. I told you, I'm not going to be surprised if you take your time through this first few runs and you learn the track and get the speed and show up later in the end of the race. And that's exactly what happens. No surprise that you stay out and, and get the fuel mileage and get the fresher tires and make up a ton of ground as the race goes on. Then we come to the last lap. I mean, the move that everyone would make, the move that, you yourself has made. And, I guess my only question regarding that, and then I'll hit you with another one after you answer, is, could you have maybe made that move coming out of turn 3 with the speed that you had, because your tires were just so much better? Watching you roll through the corners was amazing. The gap with the tires. So could you maybe the move waited till the front stretch and maybe been able to pull it off with a wider straightaway?
Well, really, I was just setting him up. I mean, at that point, I was just trying to set up who makes a mistake where, because when I cleared him, I thought, okay, I'm sitting pretty good. And I missed the tunnel turn by about a quarter of a car length, and he nailed it. And that kind of set me behind again. And so going into 3, I backed off early to kind of let him overdrive center. He overdrove center, and then he started to underdrive late center and early exit to block me low. So that's when I swung up high. And then, so he kind of did the same move on the front stretch, but luckily, I had the draft of the lap car to get to him. So where if he had come up, I could have held my line a little bit better, and it would have turned him into the wall instead of me. And coming off 2, I just had such a monster run. You got to take that. And so I was going to try to get to his outside, because I knew he would instinctively just block whatever my first move was. So I tried to tail him down as low as I could. So I gave myself enough room to swing up. And my plan was I was going to just hang on his right rear and then back off about a half car length earlier from where I was and try to see if I could get him to just overdrive center so I could roll it and then get the bottom of 3 and 4 and then shift to 4th gear, because I wasn't shifting all race. I know some guys were, but I was going to try it in turn 3 and 4 just to see if I could get the power down and get it to rotate through 3 on the bottom, as opposed to, him being on the top. But is what it is. We don't get to live to see how that would have happened.
Well, Tyler, I know you're kind of pointing towards that block move, but like Chad said, I mean, it's a guy going for his first win. If it was, it's playoff time. I said it before the race that, this tension and this, build up towards the playoffs, everybody's been clean. Everybody's not been, throwing blocks. Everybody's been kind of just, giving and not taking. Playoff times is a completely different atmosphere. We see it in every other sporting thing out there, that it just turns up. And, if it was maybe the final race, I could see where maybe it would be cleared as far as you not being that mad because it's the championship and it is what it is to go get the championship. But I mean, do you really hold it that much against Tyler B for pulling the move?
I mean, like I said, it's not the blocking I have an issue with. You get one chance to block, though. You don't really get two. We've seen it in real racing sometimes. Think of Carl Edwards in 2009 at Aaron's 499. He blocks Brad high, and then Brad gets low and gets there, and Carl's in the catch fence. So you really only get one run at a time, especially in these cars, because the runs are so big. Because just that hole you punch in the air. Again, I'm happy for Tyler. I'm glad he won. Just not at our expense. And I mean, I don't know that I make that move, sitting where we're at, because if he's the one turned into the wall instead of maybe he loses enough positions. He knocks himself out of the, going on to the next round because he doesn't have those bonus points to rely on like we did. So we were kind of playing with house money. We could be aggressive, but, at the same point, you gotta see what the bigger picture is. If something happens and he wrecks into the wall and he gets a meatball, he's, instead of finishing second or third, he's finishing 13th because it's going to give you the black flag and send you to the end of the lead lap. And maybe that's enough points that it doesn't move him in the next round. So, like I said, blocking is fine, but it's when you make the second block within a string of blocks that's where it is. And again, at my expense, when I know I held my line, if you look at the tape, I know I held my line. I'm the one with the busted right front that didn't get to race for the win in the final two turns.
All right. Well, Tyler, we definitely appreciate you coming up to the post race. I know you're a little disappointed with that second place finish, but in my opinion, if you told us pre-race like you did, where you were not confident to come into this race, you didn't think you were going to have a car to win a race, and Shad kind of called you out on it, saying, he wasn't going to be surprised to see you at the end, because once you get on track, you can figure it out like the best of them, and your strategy calls are always better than most. So, I'm not surprised to see you here at the end being in the top three, so congratulations on another top three. I think you're definitely secured as long as you start and pretty much finish, I think, in the top 20 or top 15 next week to go to the Phoenix race, which is what you were kind of pointing to at the pre-race. That's where you were kind of just trying to get there. Once you got there, then you could turn it on. You were going to kind of, make it through these two races, not have too big of mistakes, not have too big of problems, and then get there to the Phoenix race to then, turn it up and go for that championship. So we'll see what happens next week at Homestead. We appreciate you, like I said, coming up to the post race, and we'll talk to you maybe next week.
Sure, guys. Thank you for all you do. Thank you, Tyler B and Tyler Talion, for putting this on. Just glad we could be here and be a part of this. And hey, shout out to my team. Second through fifth. That's awesome. I mean,
I
we
forgot
all
to
had
mention that. Other than Tyler B, you guys would have been in first through fourth again.
We all had a myriad of strategies, and Jose really struggled here, and he and I were struggling at the beginning. So it's a difficult track to tame. It was not what I was expecting based on how I'd raced here in Shake and Bake. But hey, that's the luck of the draw sometimes. So glad we could still come out with a podium, and we're taking the gloves off for next week, so I hope everybody's ready.
All right, well, Shad, let's go ahead and start talking to our third place finisher, your buddy Chris Murphy. Chris, you bring home third tonight. You were kind of in the catbird seat to watch these two come through turn two. From your side of it, were you hoping that maybe, an accident would happen and you get your second win of the season here late, or to start this playoff run? You're kind of secured but not super secured, but with your finish here tonight, I think you do secure yourself for sure with a good shot to get to that third final race of the championship. But what was your view as you were coming into turn two, as you were watching what was playing in front of you, and then just give us a rundown on your strategy call that was similar to Tyler B's?
So it looked like there was quite a few blots going back and forth for at least like one or two laps there. I got held up by that lap car. I don't know what was going on with him. I don't know why he was racing our fourth and fifth place car like that. So that kind of burned up my stuff trying to even stay up there. So at that point, I didn't really think I had a shot at first or second. So I was kind of just sitting back and watching. And like you said, like maybe they'd put themselves in the wall and I'd be able to sneak by. But I was also content with a podium finish. But John actually was giving me a run for my money those last few laps there. I was able to hold him off there. But Yeah, it was definitely a strategy I wasn't originally planning for. When Blaney ended up passing me on that first run, I realized that I might be able to save enough fuel to make it only 2 more stops instead of 3. So that's what I started doing there, and yeah, it looked like Tyler B ended up running the same strategy, and yeah, I'm just really happy with finishing there. I did not have a lot of high hopes coming into this race with practice. I struggled really badly in practice, so the fact that I was up there pretty much the whole race, I'm just really proud of myself, I guess.
Well, Chris, I mean, I had decent hopes for you, and you were really good at Indy. We've raced together at this track, and you were pretty good. You ran up in the top, 3, 4, pretty much the entire night. At one point, I was thinking it was going to come down to you and Tyler B. For the win, because I figured the front two, there was no way they were going to get it 26 laps. Somehow Blaney was able to, but he had to slow his pace way down to be able to do it. Um, you and Tyler B were fighting back and forth, changing positions, and then pit cycles would happen. He would get a jump on you, you'd reel him right back in. Um, you know, I guess the only thing I really got for is that last run, you reeled him in, and then you kind of lost touch with them a little bit. Is it because of the lap down cars, or did maybe that last run, did you push the tires too early, too fast?
So I was actually on the inside of Tyler, and then that lap car ended up pushing him past, and then he got past at the same time. And then with that lap car in front of me, he was on a lot fresher tires than myself. So he had the speed to stay in front of me, but it was just enough that was like really affecting my air, so I couldn't really get the car to really rotate. So I mean, I was struggling with a tight car the whole time. So once that happened there, I knew I was in trouble. I just used up my tires at that point too much. Otherwise, I was really backing off my corners. I was getting a late turn in so I could get a good drive in there, and I was really making up a lot of ground on the 88 coming out of 1 and then 3. But yeah, that lap car kind of shot my race in the foot there.
Well, going in next week, Chris, we got Homestead. There's going to be probably 6 or 7 of you fighting for 4 positions, and you guys don't really have the gap like you did this race. There's a bunch of you with 1 win, and then a bunch of you, you finished right behind one another in the points. So the bonus points are really tight as you go into Homestead. How you feeling for Homestead, a track that burns the tires up? You're gonna have to be able to run a long run. I think you guys are probably gonna keep it green. This league so far this season, been a lot of green flag racing, 1 caution a night. You know, the pressure is on for next week. You cannot afford probably to finish outside the top 10 if you wanted yourself to be in that championship race. So, I mean, how you feeling for next week?
I like Homestead. I do pretty well at Homestead. I like the tracks where you have to save the tire. Since I've joined Full Time Esports here, working with Tyler and Jose, they're just so good at saving tire, and I've really been able to kind of talk with them and work with them on being able to implement that in my own racecraft. And yeah, it's been great being able to do that. So I have a good amount of confidence going into Homestead. I did pretty well there in ARCA. Um, I like that it's wide. You can take it out on the outside if you want for a little bit. You can dive it to the bottom, or even there is some speed in the middle as well. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great show next week, and I can't wait.
Well, Chris, we definitely appreciate you coming up to the booth. Another top 3 finish throughout this season. You've had multiples plus wins. Good start to the playoff run here. You make it to the next round at Homestead, possibly close to securing yourself for that final race if you can have a top 10, top 12 race next week at Homestead. Any shout outs for you or anything like that?
Yeah, so I got to start out every time. I got to thank my awesome wife for allowing me to do this. I do this a couple of times a week, and she's gracious enough to let me do this, shut my door, and keep the kids out and everything. So big shout out to her. Big shout out to you. I hope that your health is getting better. Glad to see you back up in the booth. Shad for also joining me up there, and then Tyler B. Tyler T for hosting this league. It's really fun. I'm really happy to be a part of it. And then my teammates Tyler, Jose, and John for just working with me and being able to bounce strategy off of them. And yeah, thanks so much.
Well, we definitely appreciate it, and we'll see where you end up next week at Homestead as we're waiting on the points. It looks like Tyler B has come up to the booth. Tyler, do you have the top 8 that are moving on for next week's race?
Yeah, I'm a 99.9% positive that this is correct. The only issue is for some reason Tanner White was rewarded like 58 points according to iRacing, which I know isn't accurate. So it bumped him up to second in the points, but I know he made it through the transfer anyways based off of where he finished and the points he did get tonight. So I just need to go through and check this, but 99% odds, Tyler Dohar, myself, Tanner White, Christopher Murphy, Jose Ruiz, Jason Blaney, John Osborne, and we had a tie for 8th place that went to Hunter Bailey for finishing in front of Brandon Perry tonight.
Wow, so there's your top 8 that are going to be competing at Homestead next week. Shad, any surprises there with the back half of that top 8?
Not really. I mean, those guys have been up where they are in the points all season. I thought maybe John Tiller, who had started to come on pretty strong towards the end of the regular season, might put a run together and maybe sneak in. We talked to him before the race. He sounded like he felt pretty good about his chances, and I think he came away with like a 15th place. And unfortunately, it's not going to allow him to move on in this championship. Yeah, I'm not too surprised of who the top 8 is.
The surprise I have is Hunter Bailey. That was the guy that we were talking about that had a completely different strategy than everybody else. He pitted on like lap 20. He winds up bringing it home 11th, yeah, that's who I'm talking about. And he finished 2 spots in front of the guy he tied with, Brandon Perry, who finished 13th. So that strategy call must have been pretty good for him because it got him right back into the top 11 and pushed him in front of the guy he was competing with and moved him into that 8th final transfer spot, being tied. To me, that's a surprise because that strategy did not really make sense in my head. I know you were questioning it as well because he was probably going to have to wind up pitting 2 or 3 times throughout the race by doing that, but looks like it paid off for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was running in the top 8 when he made that pit stop. So I think he actually kind of made it harder on himself tonight. But I think he was banking on a caution at some point. With Pocono being kind of a tricky track, especially to go too wide through the tunnel. And he tried to play that early pit game to make up some positions, which he did. Unfortunately, it cost him in the long run, having to come down in extra time compared to most everybody else who finished in the top 10. But just goes to show you that the points, every little point matters, because at one point here or there, he'd find himself outside of this top 8 and playing golf next week instead of racing.
Now, Tyler B., I got a question because I'm not fully understanding the playoffs here. Does it reset again for Homestead, or are the points set for the playoffs and they just have to work their way into that top 4?
It does reset again. The only difference from round 1 to round 2 is the regular season bonus points don't transfer over, just win bonus points. And the win bonus points are 3 points per race.
Okay, so that's going to definitely help Tyler with as many wins as he's got. So, but yeah, Shad, I mean, that's going to be pretty crucial next week with the points resetting. That's going to lock everybody, 1 point away from each other again, outside of Murph, Ruiz, now Tyler B., and Jason Blaney as our only winners throughout this season. The rest of those guys, there's only 4 spots available. So,
well, we actually have 5 different winners on the season. So
well, I wasn't counting Jeanette because he wasn't in the playoffs.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, he doesn't count.
So yeah,
but
4 guys.
Yeah, I mean, there's 4 transfer spots for the final race. So 5 guys have won that are in the playoffs. One of them's not going to be able to make it with that win bonus. So it's going to come down to every little point. The only person that's got a little bit more of a security blanket is Tyler Dohar with those 3 or 4 wins that he's got. So it's going to be down to the nitty gritty again. Shad, if we thought this race was exciting towards the end, I think next week's race is going to be double that, because it's going to mean everything to get to that Final Four.
I mean, yeah, Dohar, he's going to have a 9-point lead over like 4 other drivers who all are going to be sitting on 1 win and with 3 bonus points that are all going to start tied for next week's race. So, Tyler obviously can't afford a bad night. He's got to have a solid finish to be able to move on to the championship 4. But then, yeah, like you said, we got 5 guys with wins. 1 has a little bit of a gap. The other 4 are fighting over 3 positions to make it into the championship 4. And then, on top of that, the other guys that are moving in this, 8, they're only 3 points behind those guys. So next week's going to be nuts. It's going to be a lot of pressure on these drivers. No one can afford a serious mistake, even Tyler Dohar. So it's going to be intense. I feel like towards the end of the race, if somebody is sitting on the outside, they're going to make some aggressive moves, and it might make some people mad, but it's always better to ask for forgiveness once you're into the next round than it is to sit there and not make it in. And but then again, if you make an enemy and they show up for the championship race, we've seen what happened with Joey Logano and Matt Kenseth in real life. So it's going to be crazy, and I'm excited for Homestead. I love that track. I love the fact that you got to save tires, and I know there's a handful of guys like Dohar, like Ruiz, Blaney, Murphy. Those 4 for sure have shown to be able to save tires. Tyler Bellinger's always been one of the ones that has really good speed. So you got 4 guys that can save tires, and they're all 4 need a spot, but you got some other guys that are really fast too. So next week's going to be nuts. I hope a lot of people show up to the race, and maybe we can get that $15 handout if we have more than 25 guys, which unfortunately we did not reach tonight. And then, hopefully we get some viewers that are looking for one heck of a show, because I think next week is going to put on one heck of a show for guys to go to Phoenix to decide this championship.
Absolutely agree. I think everybody out there listening or watching that are going to rewatch this stream, definitely show up for next week's race, because it's going to get very, very interesting with 8 guys battling for 4 spots, and one of them has a pretty good lead over those other 7. So it's it's going to come down to probably the last and finals guy to come across the line within the playoff drivers to decide this thing, where everybody's finishing. So it's going to be crazy, and it's not for the guys who just got knocked out of the the playoffs, or the guys who did not make to the playoffs, to jump into those top 10 spots as well and push those guys even harder to get by them. So it's going to be crazy. I'm definitely excited, and I can't wait to get to Phoenix either. So, but yeah, definitely tune in next Tuesday, 7:30 Eastern time. I'll try to have it on 4 or 5 different broadcasting streaming places like I did tonight, and come cheer on your favorite drivers and see who makes it out of Homestead alive. I think it's going to get bloody towards the end, but we'll see what happens here. Definitely tune in. Thanks, Chad, for always being in the booth with me here. Definitely glad to be back in the booth myself with everything that went on last week. Definitely feeling a little better, and we'll see, I guess, what kind of ambulances or emergencies people are going to need at the end of the race, or if we're going to see fist fights or anything else that's going to go on when we get to Homestead next week. So definitely tune in, and we'll catch you guys next week.